being here. As you know from your syllabus, our speaker tonight is Mr. Jay Burris. He comes to us from Houston, Texas. He has quite a lifetime of experience to share with you tonight, and I know that you'll learn a lot from it, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about it myself, all the details that I haven't learned yet. Just little quiz statistics. That's what the quiz results look like from the first quiz. So hopefully everyone will be in the A category next time. If, however, you're not in the A category tonight and you took the syllabus quiz, I will substitute your syllabus quiz grade for the one you made on this one. So you're welcome to email me and let me know. I won't remember it if you tell me, so email me if you would like to substitute one grade for the other. You can do that on one quiz during the semester. Substitute your grade. So keep that in mind. If you want to change this one, I need to know before the end of the week. Yes?
So if you decide not to do this one, you can't change this one then, like later on. So for example, you can't wait to the end of the semester and say, okay, this was my lowest one, I want to substitute that one, or does it have to be like a week by week basis?
That's a good question. I'll do that. I'll do that. Anyone during the semester. But you have to email me though.
Yeah.
Preferably by April the 12th, which would be after your last, April the 13th. That way, on the last one, we'll know for sure. And I'll have plenty of time to go in and change any of those that you want to. So that's what it looks like. Next time, let's all go for A's. A's, right? Just A's. All A's. That's my goal for you, is to have an A in this class. So remember to take notes. Your quiz comes from what our presenter has to say. So there's Q&A at the end. So make sure you take good notes. And then remember on your reaction paper, it's about what you think. I've uploaded a rubric onto there, so perhaps it's easier for you to understand, if you're visual, what I'm talking about, what we're looking for, about how well you want to think about what is said, how you want to apply it to your own life, the insights that you want to add from your own experience or from your classes, as well as what we're looking for in making sure that when you turn in your mini essay, so to speak, it is well written. And then the last piece is you've been writing them in Microsoft Word and uploading that file, and we're going to change that. So from now on, when you go on and you click on that assignment, you're going to come up with a text box. I think E-Class, if I remember what they told me today, actually will expire in a couple of hours. So if you start writing and walk away and forget about it, it actually will upload your assignment as is. So I would encourage you to write what you have to say in Microsoft Word and then copy and paste it into the online text box for the assignment. Does all that make sense? Yes, no? Okay. Email me if it doesn't make sense. So what was happening is for all 68 students in the class, I have to download your paper, make my comments, save them as a different name, and re-upload them. And so doing it online will allow me to actually grade in real time in the same box right there, and no upload, download, anything else. Any questions before we get started? Okay, I would like to turn the floor over to Mr. Burris.
Okay, so if you wanted an A, you actually needed to start on the front row, because the entire time I did my MBA, I sat on the front row and made straight A's. So y'all want to move on down. One other thing I was going to share before I get started, my stepfather is actually a professor with the East Central University, and so when I was getting ready to be here tonight, I was trying to decide whether I was going to wear a coat and tie or I was going to wear blue jeans. Well, my stepfather shared with me that when you're an undergrad, it's coat and tie, and you look real professional, which y'all look fantastic tonight, by the way. If you're a master's, you can take the coat off, and if you're a PhD, you can actually teach with blue jeans and a t-shirt. So we're not down to that level today. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you for looking very professional. You look great. So just to get started, my talk is about cycles. So we live in a world of cycles. The sun comes up every day. There's a full moon every 29.53 days. And every 5 years, there's an El Nino cycle that's going to affect our weather. In the oil and gas industry that I work in, we face cycles as well. And right now, we're actually in one of our worst downturn cycles since I've been in the industry since 1981. So as you think about the careers that you're thinking about, you need to think about the cycles of the industry and the inevitable things that you need to take into account as you look at those cycles. So to be successful in business and life, you must be doing things that you are passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, you don't need to be doing it. And so all of you all have selected a career choice or professional choice that you're passionate about enough that you've actually gone and are seeking a higher education about it. So hopefully by now you're starting to think about the jobs and the industries that you're getting ready to get into, and you need to be thinking about the cycles that those industries will be facing as well. And you also need to understand how you can be successful in those cycles. And so for me, across my career, I've learned three key things. The first one is that I would regularly change my job to match what the industry was doing and also how my passions changed throughout my career. The second thing is I was continually learning new things. When you graduate, you didn't stop learning. You're going to continue to learn as you go through. And then the last thing, and not the least, is that you're going to be developing a network of individuals that will help you through your career. So by the end of this presentation, hopefully you will know the things that you will take to successfully navigate the cycles of your industry and your job profession. So good evening. I'm pleased to be one of the guest lecturers for the E.A. Anderson series. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for inviting me, and my friend Jay Passmore that told me this would be a great place to visit this time of year. I haven't quite figured out the weather, but we're enjoying it anyway. As I already talked about, I'm in the oil and gas industry. I've been in this industry for over 30 years. It's not the industry I started in. My dad was a petroleum engineer for Atlantic Richfield, and so I kind of knew a little bit about the oil and gas industry. But when I was graduating high school, we were going to be running out of oil in 20 years. So that would be about 1990. So are we out of oil yet? No. We're actually in probably one of the biggest gluts that we've actually had in our industry. So 40 years later, after I was thinking about getting in this industry, it's definitely alive and well and will continue for many, many years going forward. But I did want to become an engineer, and so I wanted to be an engineer. I like being outdoors, so I selected an agricultural engineering degree. So that's what my background is. I was very fortunate as I pursued that degree. I joined the Soil Conservation Service as an intern right after my freshman year, and every summer as I went to school, I would work as an intern with the Soil Conservation Service in different parts of Oklahoma, and actually the last year I worked in the state office part-time while I was finishing up my senior year. So I knew that industry pretty well, kind of knew what the jobs were, and when I graduated, that's where I started. Started with the watershed office in Marlow, Oklahoma, just north of Duncan, Oklahoma, and started going out and working on projects. And the first thing I figured out is I went and got this engineering degree, and I'm not doing an engineering, and I really didn't like the business that I was in, and so it was time to make a change pretty quickly. Fortunately, I had a good network of individuals I graduated school from. They were all working at the new research facility with Halliburton in Duncan, Oklahoma, which was where I was living at the time. And I joined Halliburton, and that's really where I set up to make my career in oilfield services. So Stephanie said you may not understand what oil and gas is, so we're going to do an oil and gas basics. That's what you told me. Okay, so let's start out with the basics of oil and gas exploration. So the first thing is all of y'all either have natural gas coming into your home, or you're actually running your cars off of a byproduct of oil, or you might have a hybrid, but still there's some natural gas being used to produce that energy. So pretty much all your energy sources in North America have their background in natural gas or in oil. And so natural gas and oil actually exist in porous formations, either limestone limestone or sandstone typically, and they're typically trapped underneath a non-porous material such as shale, and we'll come back to shale in a little bit. This is typically what it has is typically will be a bedrock that will actually form that and goes into that trap. So for us to get that, either natural gas or oil, we'll actually take a drill bit, so a rock cutter, and we'll put it on the bottom end of a drill string, and we'll rotate it, and we'll actually drill into the earth, into that natural gas or oil reservoir. Once we actually have the hole made, we'll actually put a tube in there, kind of like a straw, and we'll actually cement it in place. So we'll actually pump a cement material in. It comes up the backside, and that actually holds that tube in place. We'll then cap it, and then we'll come back, and we'll perforate through that casing out into the reservoir, and allows this natural gas or oil to actually come up in the tube and produce it. And that's the basics of oil and gas. So not only do we have onshore drilling, we actually have offshore drilling, and offshore drilling is where things kind of get interesting. So when we think about onshore drilling, we can actually move this rig. They're fairly portable. We can actually put it pretty much directly over where we want to drill, and we drill that oil or gas reservoir. Offshore, it's not so easy. We've got a floating production facility, or it can actually be a jackup off the bottom. Anymore, pretty much it's all floating facilities. And then we're going to put a template on the seabed, and we're going to be then, and this could be anywhere from a few thousand feet up to 10,000 foot of water. We're going to put a template here, and we're actually going to then directionally drill from that template actually out to the reservoir up to several miles out, sometimes as far as 5 miles away from the template, to actually get in where we can actually extract the oil and gas reservoir. So pretty awesome technology that we've developed. 10,000 foot of water, 30,000 feet deep, pressures in excess of 20,000 psi, and temperatures, bottom hole temperatures in excess of 400 degrees. So if you think about technology that NASA has to actually come up to actually launch a spaceship, imagine some of the technologies that we put into the oil and gas industry. It's a very technologically advanced industry. So one of the things that a lot of y'all probably have heard is the shale oil and gas business in North America. And so what we've actually done in North America is we've actually kind of revolutionized the way that we explore for oil and gas on land by taking some of this directional technology that we actually have offshore and come back and apply it to shale, which shale was, when I talked about this cap rock, that used to be our cap rock, or it used to be our source material. We're actually now coming into that. We'll directionally drill for up to 2 miles long, sometimes up to 3 miles long. Through a room the size of this, we can actually pretty much steer from 2 miles away, 3 miles away, right into this room, drill right through that horizon. We'll then put the casing in, we'll then perforate it, and then what we do is what's called fracture stimulation. So everybody talks about fracking. Well, this is where it comes from, because we're actually coming in here and we're actually rubblizing that shale down in the reservoir and injecting fluids that allow us then to get that to actually flow. Now, one of the comments at dinner was, well, how far do we impact that shale reservoir? Most of the time we're happy if we can actually get out 200 to 300 foot away from the wellbore. So we're almost 20,000 foot away from the wellhead trying to impact an area about 200 to 300 feet. And the way that we actually can get in and extract most of the shale oil is we drill lots of these. So we don't just drill one well and expect to get production from 5 miles away. We drill a lot of these wells and hope to get the production from about 200 to 300 feet away. So that's the basics of oil and gas. So, one of the things that I've talked about is the oil and gas industry is where I've developed my opportunities over the years. So I started with Halliburton after my small stint with the Soil Conservation Service. And I was with Halliburton for over 28 years. In that period of time, I did product development, I did international operations, also marketing and M&A. And one of the things that Stephanie and I were talking about is, she said, well, most people think about oil and gas as North America. Actually, very, very little of my career has actually been North America focused. Majority of it's actually been internationally. In fact, if I hadn't recently purposely came back to some of the shale plays in North America, I wouldn't actually have had very much of a career in North America. In a recent downturn, 2008, because of the financial crisis, and then also the Macondo oil spill, I had an opportunity to leave Halliburton and started looking at consulting, as well as working with some of the private equity investors and venture capitals, trying to help out entrepreneurial firms. Because of that, I joined a company called Reed Well Services. This was a European-based company looking to get into the North America business. And so I basically helped them putting together a strategy, some of the technology they would have to come into North America with, and basically set up a strategy to be in this industry. The CEO that I worked with at the time changed, and then a new CEO came in and said, didn't really want to focus on North America because, again, there's large areas outside of the U.S. That there's sometimes better margins in, so they pursued that. So I left Reed and started with Valoric in the drilling product side of their business, strictly only focused on North America. Valoric is a French company, so it was my very first time to have to deal with a French management, which was fine, except I don't speak any French. So that's another thing that you learn over your career. Sometimes you get thrown into places where you have different culture, different languages that you have to actually learn to deal with those. And lastly, with the downturn in the drilling industry, so if you think about North America, where 2 years ago we actually had 1,600 rigs working in North America. Today we've got 519. If you're working for a drilling products company, that's not the best place to be. And so I was very fortunate that I had this opportunity with ALS Oil and Gas. The company was a lot more globally diverse, came around, and so I left Valoric and joined them. And I've been with them since the 1st of January, visiting their operations in Scotland, Holland, Jordan, Texas, and Midland, Texas, and I'm on my way to Canada next week, Mexico the following week. So totally a globally focused company. So since I graduated with my engineering degree in 1981, I've had 20 different jobs, worked with 5 different companies. I've worked in or visited over 30 countries. And so if I wasn't willing to change jobs, if I wasn't willing to move, I would not have been successful in our cyclical business. So the first takeaway is you want to be flexible enough that you can actually move. So if you look at the ups and downs of our business, it definitely is, it demonstrates that you have to be flexible. There were periods of stability, and during those times of stability, I just focused on career growth. When things were up, I would take opportunities and stretch myself. When things contracted, I would then look for opportunities that worked with that. So if you're going to enhance your career, you need to be prepared for the cycles that all of your industries will be facing. So the next area that's been very important to me, my granddad, after he retired, spent a lot of his time fishing, but he was always learning something new, something that was unique to him. And I asked him, I said, Granddad, why are you spending all your time learning some new things? You're retired. And he said, Jay, the day I stop learning is the day I die. And that was something that really hit me at the time. I said, I need to be learning something all the time. So when I came back from my international career, I was overseas for about 7 years. I had an opportunity to start with a mid-management course at SMU. That was kind of cool. It's kind of like a little mini MBA, and I really enjoyed that. Again, my background is engineering, and so management, business was something kind of novel to me. So that encouraged me to think about doing an MBA. So with the support of my wife and my work, I went to Baylor and got my executive MBA, and I managed to graduate in 2005, 24 years after I graduated with a bachelor's degree. So you have to be willing to go out and learn new things. with that degree in hand, it gave me a whole new insight to different things. And so I joined the merger and acquisition group at Halliburton, successfully divested a couple of underperforming businesses, our Westport Labs, as well as our Reservoir Performance Group. And then we started to grow the company. I acquired PSL Energy Services. It was an Eastern Hemisphere focused coil tubing business, so it allowed us to expand our coil tubing business into a different region. Acquired Well Dynamics, that was an intelligent completions group that we brought into our completion systems. And then Pinnacle, when we think about fracture stimulation, we were always pumping fluids and everything else down hole, but we had no idea whether we were effectively treating the well. Pinnacle actually had the techniques that would allow us to do that. And so being able to assess that business, figure out how that strategy would come in and work with our pressure pumping business was very important, and that's things I picked up through my MBA program at Baylor. So learning new things can enhance your career, but we also have to make sure that we're enhancing our life as well. And so for me, learning new things also translate into my personal life. So I talked about my buddy over here, Jay Passmore. He's a pilot, I'm a pilot. So when I was actually commuting in and out of the Congo, so I was commuting on a 35-35 schedule into the Congo, so that would be 35 days in the country and 35 days out. And we were actually reopening up our Angola base after a civil war that was there for 30 years. And so it was kind of a mess. So on the time off, you definitely wanted to do some things. So I spread my wings getting my pilot's license. In 1996, I successfully got my pilot's license. That then evolved to a more complex rating to be able to fly a 182. That was my very first owned airplane. Also got an instrument rating in the 182, moved into a retract. That's a 836 Bonanza, and a multi-engine aircraft. And then for the fun of it, got a wingman card where I can actually fly in formation. But my favorite of all is the V-tail Bonanza that I actually flew in here to today so that I could actually come in and talk to you. That's one of my favorite planes. And flying that plane in formation is a blast. And actually, that's my plane right there. So learning new things is important. It's also important that we develop others. And so I always think about the fact that I can't enhance my career unless I'm enhancing someone else's career, because if I don't have a successor, if I don't have someone that's following in my footsteps, my manager is not going to really want me to move on to something else. So one of the things that I've also learned from a constantly learning point is always developing others and always teaching someone. One of the things that I really picked up as we did our MBA program was whenever I would teach someone else something, I actually learned a whole lot more about it than had I just done the work on my own. So I really encourage you to always make sure that you're developing others as you develop yourself. And the last part, but probably not the least part, is networking. So as I said, I'm an engineer. And how many of y'all know engineers? Are we social butterflies? This is something that I really had to work on. Getting away from the desk, getting away from the quiet room, and getting out and networking and socializing and getting to know people. Fortunately for me, I've done very well. I've developed a very strong network of friends, leaders, peers that over the years have become very integral into my ability to enhance my career and enhance the things that I've done in my life. For me, networking is just like sales. Spent a lot of time in sales, and so what I'll tell you is when you're in sales, it's all about the product, it's always about the service. And so from a networking standpoint, you are the product. You're the part that's out there that you're trying to sell. And so just like in sales, what you do is you start out and you develop a list of those people that you want to sell your product or service to, which that's yourself. So that can be your customers, which that's the hiring managers. It can be suppliers, your peers. And also it can be advocates for that product or service, and that's going to be leaders that know you as well as friends. So you need to make sure, just like in sales, you're going to make a sales call, you're going to be talking to them, and those meetings need to be something that's an advantage to that individual just as well as it is to you. But they really need to see the value out of spending that time with you. Those can be periods where you just go have a coffee with someone, a lunch with someone, a hobby that you share. So, I'm a pilot, got a lot of passion for that. A lot of the people that I network with are pilots. It can also be just going out to dinner with your spouse. But during each encounter, make sure that you are focused on what you wanted to sell. Why were you having this encounter? What was the relationship that you were trying to develop? And then while you're there, also think about other people that they know that can actually help you sell that product yourself to others. So social networking is also one of those things that you can do. Your generation is a whole lot better at social networking than I am. I have Facebook. I play on Facebook a little bit. And actually, interestingly, the job that I actually have today was through posting on LinkedIn. I just happened to be looking at LinkedIn, and one of my old bosses said, "Hey, we're looking for a managing director," and I texted back. I said, "Hey, I'm interested," and it involved into the position. However, that individual had already known me. We worked together, and he knew what my background was, and so it was part of the social network, but it was also because I developed a good network with that individual. So on July 20th, 1969, the Lunar Eagle, or the Lunar Module Eagle, landed on the surface of the moon. The timing of that landing was based on successfully navigating the cycles of the moon's full moon cycle, which you know from the beginning is 29.53 days, right? I can tell Stephanie wrote that down, so that's in your chat. You're getting ready to launch your career into an industry that will also be cyclical. To be successful and land that job, just like we landed the lunar module, you need to have a passion for that particular job or that industry so that you can be successful during the ups and downs of that cycle. To be successful, you can use the three things that I've talked about. The first thing is you have to be flexible. You need to know when you need to change a job. That's going to be beneficial to you and the company. And also your passions are going to be changing as you develop your career, so you need to be in a position that you can do that. You need to be continually learning new things at work and in life. And during that time, you also need to make sure that you're developing others. And third, you need to be developing a network for life of individuals that can help you and mentor you along the growth of your career. I'm Jay Burris, and I've successfully navigated the business cycles of the oil and gas industry for over 30 years, and I look forward to your questions. Yes, sir.
You said you were in product development earlier in your career. What type of products did you develop that involved the oil industry?
Okay, so the products that I was a product manager over were what we called our reservoir performance systems. So that would be electronic memory gauges, permanent monitoring systems, well testing systems, and also service tools. So each one of those were products. Most of the type of business that we did within the oil and gas industry are B2B. So it's actually business to business type products. Fortunately for me, I actually started as an engineer, so I actually developed tools. I think I have about 7 patents. So I was an engineer first, and then I actually went international, living overseas, working in a global business. So I actually had the two backgrounds is really important in product development. I actually had technical background, having designed and developed products, and then also the operational expertise of actually selling that to our clients. And then when I came back in, I could actually then put together strategies that focused on how to take those products and really prioritize those things that we really needed to be building that would actually allow us to perform better for our customers. Yes, ma'am.
You said you worked with a French company and you didn't really know the language. So what were some of the difficulties with learning to work and communicate?
Okay. The most interesting part of that one was the business language was French. I mean, sorry, was English. Okay. In fact, one of the things when I interviewed for them, I asked them. I said, "So, I do not know French. We are working in North America, so I can work with all of our customers, but internally, how do we work?" And they said, "It's all English." And that's fine when in the office everybody's speaking English. But one of the things that we typically had a lot of meetings where all the side discussions, where typically if you're in a room, you can actually hear all the side discussions. Those are all in French. So basically, you sit in a room and you have no idea what they're talking about. And so, I guess what I would say, and there's actually 2 times I actually had that, the French issue is one I actually talked about. I worked in the Congo for a while. So my preparation to go to the Congo was I got a call 1 week before and said, "Hey, you've been wanting to be able to move your family back home, so you can do that, but we need you commuting into the French Congo." So no language lessons, no nothing. I landed on December 15th. I had to load out an entire well test package on Christmas Day, and my entire staff are French. So I couldn't understand them. Somehow we managed to pull it off. So be prepared. You're going to be in those kind of situations through your career where you're going to get thrown into something. But the main thing is be flexible, enjoy it, try to learn the language. Unfortunately, my engineering background doesn't allow me to be a good language person, but I did enjoy all my time in Paris. Paris is gorgeous. They speak French there for some reason. Yes, sir.
How are today's gas prices affect companies in the oil industry?
So which gas price are you talking about? The gas at the pump or the gas?
Yeah.
Natural gas. So gas at the pump. The gas at the pump doesn't really affect me. It's actually the price of the barrel. That's the feedstock for the price of the gas. In fact, one thing that's interesting is, the price at the pump has actually not gone down in proportion to the actually oil price. If you think about oil price 2 years ago was about $100 a barrel, I think. And I don't know what the strip price was today because I know it fell 6%. So it's probably somewhere around $25. That's a quarter of what it was 2 years ago. I don't think your price at the gas pump's a quarter of what it was. And so why is that? You've got a lot of taxes. The refiners aren't actually cutting their prices. They're actually the refiners are actually doing really well in this deal. Their commodity that they actually bring into the refinery is actually, their price is a quarter what it used to be. And they're selling from anywhere at 50%, maybe 60 or 40% less than what it used to be. So they're making some good money. We'll start right here.
All right, so you said that the market in North America doesn't have very many opportunities, but I was wondering how that can be when the United States is known to be one of the top producers of oil and natural gas, especially with the new fracking technology that's come about in the past couple of years. So can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So that's actually that's actually a recent phenomenon.
Okay.
Until 2008, most of the oil and gas exploration was overseas, and actually the U.S. was actually in a major decline. In fact, that was one of the reasons why I had very little focus on North America until you already talked about the directional drilling and the fracturing totally changed North America. So actually North America is what I would call a swing producer. Mm-hmm. And so the only way that we're actually going to end up with a balance, so the reason actually the oil price got so much out of balance is we got so good at producing oil in the United States that we way outstripped the demand. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be punished, drop the price of oil, and there'll be a rebalancing. And then as we go out of this cycle, will be the ones that actually keeps that production up on the balance. So there will be opportunities in the oil and gas industry. I talked about when I looked at it first time in 1977, we were only going to have oil for the next 20 years. We're 40 years past that. We're in a supply glut. I think North America will continue to be a very big opportunity in the oil and gas industry going forward.
So you think they'll continue to be leaders in the industry then?
North America, absolutely. We will basically, there is way more shale internationally than there is in the United States. Some of the biggest shale beds are in former Soviet Union. That's where a huge amount of shale beds are. Argentina has some, Australia has some, but the biggest issue in taking what we're doing here in the United States is we have free enterprise ability to go in and lease the land that we actually need, where in most of those international locations, you can't get the land mass that you need to be able to go in and do the type of drilling and complete what we're doing today. It'll come. Yes, ma'am.
So going back to the previous question, it's like dropping prices of just like the barrel of oil, since I think it's now a quarter of what it used to be. For companies that are drilling and that has to be selling the oil, if they're not making as much money, like in terms of that, how is it possible to stay profitable and in business if you're making so much less money?
Right now it is extremely difficult to make money in the oil and gas business, though some people still are pulling it off. I heard the other day at $25 a barrel, 90% of the oil production still is making money, 10% is losing, and obviously if you got the 10%, you probably ought to just go ahead and shut it in. However, if you're a business owner that you've highly leveraged your company, which is what most of the North America shale guys did, they highly leveraged it, they still have to make those loan payments, so they have to still produce it even though they're producing at a loss and make their financial payments. It will balance itself out. There's already a lot of bankruptcies out there right now. People can't make their payments, so we're probably 4 or 5 months worth of a lot more pain, losing a lot of those guys, and then obviously the stronger are going to survive coming out of this. Yes, sir.
A lot's been made of the environmental impact of fracking lately. Do you think that the economic benefits of fracking outweigh the environmental costs?
First thing, I would challenge that there's not environmental issues with fracturing. So, we can have that discussion all day long. We started we started fracturing wells in the 1960s, and since we started fracturing wells in the 1960s, there's not been a proven environmental issue fracturing since the 1960s. So like I said, we can go have that discussion offline. Fracturing is a essential element of extracting oil and gas from shale reservoirs. You just can't do it. Again, we're dealing with a rock that's about as solid as the concrete pavement out there. It's very, very, very low permeability, with some that have somewhat decent porosity. And the only way that we can actually get the oil and gas to come out of that is we have to basically rubbleize. Remember, I talked about that 200-foot radius is what we're having to rubbleize, right? And that allows that oil and gas in some way of getting a conduit back into the pipe. Our recovery rates right now in the shale gas and the shale oil reservoirs is about 3% to 6%. So if you think about a block of shale, and you think about it fully having oil and gas in every single one of the pores, we're only going to be able to get 3 to 6% out of it. So that's how little we're actually extracting out of that. And yet, we've basically changed the landscape of the oil and gas market in North America from being a mature, dying industry to basically being a swing producer. So I would say without fracturing, we wouldn't have that. Whether it's good for the economy, bad for the economy, I can't tell you, but I'm a lot happier with lower price at the pump.
And just a follow-up question, so if they're only capturing 3% of that natural gas, where's the gas going then?
It just stays in the reservoir.
Okay. It
So
doesn't, potentially escape to like the water?
No, it doesn't go anywhere. Still stuck in that rock. So really that's going to be the challenge going forward for producers in North America is, again, we're only pulling 3 to 6% out of that rock volume. And so what are some other technologies that we can bring into the industry that allow us to get, quote unquote, 100%? even in the sandstones, the limestones, we only get 30 to 40% recovery. And those are very porous, highly permeable reservoirs. We still don't get 100% of the formation. One of the things that my dad actually worked on towards the end of his career was a lot of enhanced oil recovery. And so they were looking at things where they did CO2 floods, where they would actually pump CO2 in, and that would push the oil and gas ahead of it. And still, even those sweeps are 30 to 40%. So. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an idea yet on what you want to do after you're done with the oil business since you like change?
You know, I did a little playing for a while after I left Halliburton, looking at different careers, and again, my background's agricultural engineering, right? And I was looking at some things that would still be energy related, but you know, more close to what I learned originally. For me, I didn't learn anything, or excuse me, I didn't see anything that I had the same passion about. I know this business like the back of my hand. I love it, and to be honest with you, I probably will do it until the day that I have to retire. And even then, it'll be tough. My mother's 76, and she still works.
Going off that statement, after a lifetime in this career, would you encourage young people to go into it?
Absolutely. It's probably one of the, again, I already talked about some of the technology that we have in this industry. We're drilling wells in 10,000 foot of water, 30,000 feet out there, 20,000 PSI, 400. As an engineer, it's just mind-boggling the different things that we can do. As we've already talked about, we're only recovering 3 to 6% of the actual volume of oil and gas that's in our assets. Those are American assets that we own. It's going to take young individuals, entrepreneurs in that industry for many, many, many years working on it. So yeah, it's a very intriguing business. And also those of you that are interested in international, it's you know, this is a global business, and more of what we learn here, we actually will take globally.
So where should our business managers start
Where
in
should-
that industry?
Well, the best place that I always say is start out as a roughneck. So start out on the rigs.
Oh.
I mean, you know, I didn't start that way. My career was straight into technology, but I have always regretted that actually I didn't spend, you know, the majority of my time actually on the rigs, out in the field. I spend a lot of time today in those areas because that's kind of what I would say is a bit of my weakness, is I didn't have a lot of time in the field. But you know, starting out as a roughneck, starting out as a field hand, that's the best place. Get the hard work early, get the knowledge of that industry, and it definitely will help you for a career. That's where I would start. Yes?
Do a lot of these organizations, like the ones you work for, have formalized intern programs?
For sure, Halliburton does, Schlumberger, some of the big ones for sure do. ALS, I'm too new to know whether we do. Valoric, we actually had an intern program. All of the oil and gas companies have intern positions, and most of them, what I just was sharing with him, are going to be field-based, though we do bring marketing people into the marketing department, so there's definitely intern opportunities, and right now, if I was going to intern, I would be looking at it right now. Because most of them have set their interns definitely January, February. Don't wait till the last minute on that. Other questions? Yeah.
Where was the most interesting place that you were working in of all places?
Most interesting. That's actually a very difficult question. Probably the hardest place I worked, so I'll start with that. Probably the most difficult living conditions, working conditions ever was Nigeria. So it was probably one of the most fulfilling places I ever worked. And the fact that at that time, to make a phone call to Port Harcourt, I would start in the evening at 6 o'clock getting the redial button. I might get through by 8 o'clock in the evening to actually talk about a job we would actually have the next day. Today, you can actually in Nigeria, you can pick up a cell phone and you can actually make that same call like right now. In fact, I'd get mad if I actually had a hesitation. So it's a different world today in communicating. So basically, had very, very poor communication. But we had a very, very strong network of people, and the customer service personnel relationship was really good. I had to pretty much do everything. I had to run the business. I had to do the sales. I had to do the recruiting. I had to do the technical calls. Had to talk to the states. So basically, I had every responsibility that usually you would have a whole staff of people working on. So you learn a whole lot of things. So as far as place I love the most would be Aberdeen, Scotland, which people would tell you today that's absolutely the worst place because it's gray all the time, it's cold all the time, the city's granite, but my other passion outside of flying is I like to play golf, and so I think I've played golf on every single golf course in Scotland almost 365 days a year. So I played one day in a winter day where I was actually followed a snowplow to the golf course, hit these great shots that bounced down the frozen fairway, and anyway, we finished up on the 18th hole, and they said, "Did you know the golf course was closed?" What else? Yes, sir.
How many flight hours do you have as a pilot?
1,800 hours. Well, more than 1,800 hours. Over 900 of that in retract bananas or travel. What else? Yes.
Your bio mentioned that you did some compassion missions.
Yeah.
Mission work. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So along with, Houston actually is a hub of the medical center. So MD Anderson's there. Well, they just got a lot of different hospitals there. So one of the things that's really difficult is if you have cancer and you're out in the boonies, trying to get into MD Anderson is kind of a challenge. And so one of the things that we actually have is called Angel Flight South Central, I'm a member of. And we get a listing every day that basically says, here's all the potential missions of individuals trying to either come into Houston or leave Houston. And if I know I'm going somewhere, I typically will tag on an Angel Flight to that mission as well. Or sometimes if I don't have anything going on, I'll just pick up a mission, go fly and pick them up, bring them back, or take them back out. So it's a great organization, absolutely no cost to the patient. As pilots, we take care of all that responsibility. We have a great coordination team in Dallas, and it's a great organization that I really enjoy. And I've met some great people over the time doing that.
Do you have a region of pickup?
So ours is South Central. So typically, the South Central area goes Arkansas, Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma is our kind of our geography. But I can actually pick up. I could have actually, if there had been the right mission, I could have actually picked up someone all the way coming out here. We actually have a lot that there are 3-leg missions that would actually come all the way to the East Coast. And we do a lot that go up to like Kansas City. There's some come out of Denver. We've been doing that for about 5 years. Yes, ma'am.
Did you fly into Chattanooga or the Collegedale Airport, and how will you handle the upcoming nasty weather we're supposed to have?
Flew into Cleveland. Jay arranged a beautiful hangar for me there. So that's where I flew in. And how will I handle the weather? I'll leave when it's appropriate. So. Weather, I have lots of flexibility, but I'm an instrument-rated pilot. I fly in a lot of nasty weather. My 2 things, I don't fly into convection, I don't fly in ice, and I kind of broke that a little bit last week. I flew into Midland and I had a little bit of ice on the airplane. So, but typically I know whether it's a good day to fly or not. Right now, I told someone this morning I'm on vacation this week, so my next place I have to be is Daytona Beach on Saturday morning for a board meeting, and so because of that, I'll fly when it's safe. I'll fly when it's safe no matter what. What else? Yes, ma'am.
How often do you guys do the Angel Flights?
Whenever, I try to do at least one, so my goal typically is one a month. Some years I do better than that, some years I don't. Just depends on what's going on. I took on a new job this year and that had a lot of international travel, so I haven't been around the U.S. lately. Yes, sir.
How did you initially go about getting your pilot's license?
So So the way I went about it is my wife handed me a gift certificate for Christmas and said, here's a place to go out and do a discovery flight. And I went to this discovery flight, figured out that I could buy a certain block and get another 10 hours, and did that. And just kind of, I did talk about I was doing that when I was commuting in and out of the Congo. So I had 35 days, well actually don't get full 35, it's about 30 days where I could either play golf all the time or I could do something else. And so that's what I did. It was on my days off. It took about 6 months. And that was a little cheaper than it is today. What else? Okay.
You can see Mr. Burris's LinkedIn account. That's actually how I came to know about him. So I was connected to my friend, Jay Passmore, who's a family nurse practitioner. And I was looking at some of his contacts and I was like, wow, this guy's got a lot of experience in business fields. I think I'll see if he's interested. So you make the connection and here he is today. So you just never know. People might be looking you up and you have opportunity to meet people. It really does work to help the network. Do you guys have any other questions for the evening before we dismiss? Have a great week. I'll see you next week.